All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Today, we'll talk about being in the United States for 13 years. I did my first master's degree in Hartford Seminary in Islamic Studies and Christian-Muslim Relations. And then I did my second master's in sociology at University of Houston. We had a beautiful campus next to NASA. And then after that, I got accepted by Emory University to sociology program, the PhD program in sociology. So this is my 5th year in the program. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. We are currently having some unprecedented times. We are in uncharted waters, and I hope everybody is safe and healthy. My plan is to talk around maybe 30 to 40 minutes and then take your questions. You can write your questions during this YouTube live stream, and then hopefully I'll try to do my best to answer as many questions as possible. All right, let's get started. Why did I choose this topic tonight? Because I wanted to make sure you guys are ready for your future careers. I think this is pretty much important. And I also want to tell you 2 basic things about this PowerPoint presentation. Basically, number one, I'll talk about what kind of skills you are going to need. And number 2, what kind of job areas or future-proof jobs, I call them. What kind of future-proof jobs you might need in the future. Of course, you don't need to follow that specific career that I will exemplify. I'm going to give like 5 or 6 different examples. You don't have to follow that specific career, but keep in mind that the careers will also be diversified in the future. Some of the careers that you never think about in the past, they will suddenly pop up in the future. Let's get started. Some of the future skills that you need. I'll list 5 or 6 future skills, and I will especially dwell on the last one, which is the most important one. And I don't want to spoil it right now, but I'll do my best to talk about and cover each and every one of them as much as possible. And I also check my phone because I will get my comments and questions. So if you have any comments or questions and you don't want to wait all the way to the end, you can ask your questions anytime. And I think number 1 skill for future will be creativity and critical thinking. These are different skills, all right? We also call critical thinking analytical thinking, but keep in mind that they are usually in most of the rankings, future skills rankings, creativity and critical thinking, they top the charts. And usually they are, if not 1 and 2, usually they are in top 3 or top 5 most of the time, all right? And creativity is a kind of buzzword, and you might have, or you must have heard it a lot, but creativity can be summarized as thinking outside the box, coming up with original ideas or plans. And creativity happens actually in a kind of as a result of critical thinking, or not maybe all the time as a result of critical thinking, but it doesn't happen in a loop or in a hole, all right? It always accompanied by critical thinking. So critical thinking, like I said, is also called analytical thinking, and it doesn't just like I said, it doesn't happen in a vacuum or in a hole. And if you are not critical about something, you are not gonna be creative or productive either. You are gonna only imitate the people that preceded you. Of course, you are gonna stand on the shoulders of the giants, but keep in mind that all these previous giants, they have their own shortcomings or a lot of points that could be that we can or we could criticize. So critical thinking comes at a very critical moment because that creativity, your future creativity, is also depending on your critical thinking ability. And I'm going to revisit these topics again in a few minutes. I think number 2 is very important as well, and I wanted to put them together: mental flexibility and complex problem solving. Mental flexibility is pretty much being able to adapt to different mental or intellectual conditions. Mental flexibility is sometimes to be able to work on different areas of your brain and maybe improve different parts of your brain. There's with some of my friends, some of them are American, some of them are Turkish. They believe that we human beings only use 3 or 5% of our brain. With most of my Turkish friends, it's between 3 to 5%, and most of my American friends is 10%. There's even a Wikipedia article which is entitled 10% myth. And according to this article, most of the people, not maybe most of the, but many people believe that we only use 10% of our brain. Like I said, many of my Turkish friends, they think that we only use like 3 or 5% of our brain, which is a myth. Actually, according to the neurologists, we use pretty much almost all of our brain, 100%. And that 10% myth came in the last century, not even in the last century, in late 1800s. So basically, since we can use 100% of our brain, mental flexibility is pretty much important, using different parts of our brain or coming up with different skills related to brain. These are significant things that we need to definitely improve. And complex problem solving is also pretty much important. When I was doing my undergrad degree in Turkey, back in Bosphorus University, one important thing that came up during the career days when we were senior, and some of my friends, for example, they attended some interviews with some top 500 companies in Turkey, and some of them are international companies. They were asked some hard or some puzzles or riddles or some brain teasers that require think outside the box type of problem solving situation. So it requires some creativity. Again, we are pretty much related to creativity, guys. I think this is not, again, something that happens in a vacuum, like I said a couple of times today. More future skills. One of them is interdisciplinary knowledge. I think some of the disciplines are getting more and more, they're getting closer to each other. And basically we have 3 giant disciplines. One of them is natural sciences, like physics, chemistry, biology, math, genetics type of things. And then, of course, different funny combinations like biochemistry type of things. Number 2 is another giant area, social sciences, like sociology, which is my area, psychology, economics, political science, anthropology, etc. And then finally comes humanities, like history, religion, literature, art, and all these theology under religion, for example. We have those areas as well. So interdisciplinary knowledge requires sometimes, if you are a natural scientist, sometimes you might borrow some concepts or you might cooperate with some social scientists. In rare cases, you might be cooperating with humanities people. Or as a sociologist, so many times I used to cooperate or collaborate with people from humanities discipline. So basically, interdisciplinary knowledge is also very, very important. And I think this kind of knowledge pretty much requires, again, mental flexibility and creativity as well. Because without these things, it is not easy to combine all these different knowledge areas. So please keep in mind these things all go hand in hand, all right? Cultural intelligence and cultural capital, one of the important things for future. Cultural intelligence, some people call it intelligence, but I like calling it cultural capital, because we usually have, mainly human beings have three types of capitals: social capital, financial capital, and then some people call it economic capital, and then we have cultural capital. Financial capital is what you have, social capital is who you know, and cultural capital is what you know. So as part of cultural capital, we usually, what I mean is your, again, intellectual background, which is very, very, very important. For example, cultural capital can be related to knowing some, for example, rare dishes from different kitchens or cuisines around the world, or being cognizant about other cultures, or having read some of the world classics, or maybe some other things. For example, if you know some art house movies, art house means movies related to art, or movies that were shot or directed for artistic purposes. If you have some knowledge about this, you might easily talk about those kind of movies. And these capitals can be converted to each other, guys. For example, you can convert your social capital into cultural capital, or eventually you can transform your cultural capital into social and economic capital. For example, let's say that you have some knowledge about French cuisine or French kitchen. You know all the foods about what the French people used to cook or have been cooking. And you decided to turn this cultural capital into, with the help of your social capital. For example, if you know someone from the New York Times, if you know the editor-in-chief of New York Times, the most famous newspaper in the United States, that means that person might tell you that, hey, come and write a column once a week or once a month about French cuisine. And then you see, and then you write columns, and then you make money out of this. So your cultural capital transferred or transformed into financial capital. So cultural capital is also pretty much important for future skills. And finally, soft skills are super important. And I want to tell you like 10 of them briefly, the soft skills. And I'm also sometimes checking my crib notes, all right? And soft skills are pretty much important because hard skills are your overall skills related to that job, like administrative skills or technical skills, all right? But soft skills are your interaction with other human beings at the workplace, or when you're working from home, or other things, your work rate and all these things, time management. And I'll briefly talk about these soft skills. I think soft skills are as much as important as the first four future skills. Soft skills have of tremendous importance. And I'll give you some of the examples of soft skills. Nowadays, employers, they are looking for people with soft skills. And I'll list a few of them. It's not a comprehensive list, but I want to mention a few of them especially. For example, communication is a very important soft skill, and it requires your oral speaking ability, written English ability, your presentations, and clear speech patterns. So all your communication skills. How do you, for example, how do you make a presentation? How do you sell a product by making a good presentation about that product. And I think this is very important skill. That's why most of the time, many employers put communication as number one skill. Another one is, maybe the second one is courtesy. And courtesy includes manners, the etiquette, and especially business etiquette. And do you say please? Do you say thank you? Are you respectful to your colleagues or to other fellow employees or staff members? All these are part of courtesy, and it's all under the umbrella of soft skills. And then flexibility. Are you flexible? And I'm not talking about mental flexibility, but rather, are you adaptable to different situations and conditions? Can you adapt yourself? Are you willing to change? Or are you stuck with the past? You can't just go beyond the past. You can't just get over it. You are getting stuck with the past. Or are you flexible? Are you willing to change? Are you a lifelong learner? This is one of the most important soft skills, guys. Are you a teachable person, for example, or are you? Do you accept learning new things? So flexibility, as you can see, guys, it includes a lot of the important changes that you are ready, or excuse me, I have some allergies. The pollens are killing me. Sorry. So are you ready to make those changes in your life or in your career? And then integrity. Integrity is also important because are you honest? Are you ethical? Do you have high moral standards? Do you accept all universal ethical principles? And I think this is very important to make sure that you are having that integrity. Some people in some countries, integrity or those kind of skills come at the secondary or tertiary level. But I think integrity in the American context is as important as the other soft skills or even hard skills, guys. Because you can be a doctor, or you can be an engineer, or you can be a social scientist. But if you are a corrupt person, if you are not honest, if you are dishonest, and if you try to cheat of people, if you lack integrity, you are going to be a corrupt doctor. You are going to be a person who is not pretty much reliable. So I think integrity should bring nice adjectives in front of your professional title. All right. And the other one is here, interpersonal skills. Are you a nice person? Are you personable? Or do you have the sense of humor? For Americans, it's very important to have some sense of humor. And are you friendly? Are you nurturing other people? And or are you empathetic? Do you establish empathy with other people? Can you put yourself into their shoes? And are you patient? Are you warm? So those kind of social skills, interpersonal and social skills, are also a big part of soft skills, guys. And then another one is positive attitude. Are you optimistic? Are you an optimistic person? Or do you have some enthusiasm or passion in you? Are you a happy person, or do you always display some sour face to other people? I think this is also pretty much going hand in hand with other skills. And professionalism. Are you well dressed? And now that a lot of people are communicating through Zoom, we only see people from half part bottom up, we don't see them bottom down. Maybe they're wearing pajamas or whatever. By the way, I promise you guys, I don't wear pajamas, and I have just my pants. But the thing is, sometimes this professionalism in this unprecedented times, it can be about only half of the screen or half of your body. And people sometimes don't care about the other half of their body, as long as they see only one part of their body. So I think professionalism, but hopefully when these unprecedented times are over, hopefully you are going to be going back to your old professional days, and then you need to have that nice, well-dressed appearance. It's very significant part of having the good impression on other people has a tremendous effect, guys, believe me. And then, are you a responsible person? Are you accountable? Are you ready to give account of what you have done or what you have been doing? Are you a reliable person? Do you get the job done? And are you resourceful or self-disciplined? Can you do that? Are you conscientious? Do you have the common sense? So all, within the rubric of responsibility, you see we have a lot of things. Can you take responsibility of the actions that you have committed, or you just flee the scene that you just leave behind? Responsibility is another soft skill. And then teamwork. Do you get along with other people? Are you cooperative? Or are you collaborative? Are you helpful? Do you like helping other people? So these are also, being a good teamwork is a very important skill, and you can't just ignore being a good team member. As you know, there's some famous sayings like there is no I in team. As you can see here, guys, in the word team, there is no I. So there's, this is a kind of double entendre, double meaning, it's a wordplay. But keep in mind that there is no I in team. So sometimes for the success of your team or group, or with the other members all together, if you want to accomplish something, and sometimes you need to sacrifice your own personal interests. So being selfish doesn't work when you are part of a team, all right? And last but not least, work ethic. Do you have the work ethic? This is similar to integrity, but this is more related to work area. So are you a hardworking person? Are you willing to work? Are you loyal? Are you self-motivated? Do you have a good attendance? Can you meet other people on time? I think some of my friends, they lack, for example, being on time. They lack these skills. They are not punctual. So you might have noticed with some people around you, some people are not punctual at all. They're always 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late. And it's not part of a good ethic. So in America, we always attach a lot of importance on work ethic. So work ethic, being punctual, keeping your promises, being able to go the extra mile, these are all very important things, guys. And I want to show a couple of future-proof job areas right now. And again, keep in mind that this is not a comprehensive list. This is maybe 1% of future jobs, but future-proof means these jobs will still be popular in the future. Actually, some of them that I'm going to list, they are not very popular at this moment, but in the future, people predict that, some experts predict that they're going to be pretty much important in the future. For example, some areas related to, some jobs related to alternative energy, like nuclear energy, hydro energy, or wind, solar power, and maybe some other alternative energy areas, people who work in these areas, once we are running out of some of our natural resources, some other people will be desperately looking for alternative energies, for example, electrical cars. So these kind of areas will be pretty much on demand in the future, guys, all right? Another interesting one, for example, recovery of extinct species. You know, some species are just disappearing. According to some estimates, every day, hundreds, if not thousands, species just disappearing from the earth. So there will be some technology to recover some of those extinct species, thanks to the advancement in genetics. So maybe you might be directing yourself to this specific area, recovery of extinct species. Mind memory related things. There will be, I think in the future, there will be mind engineers, because I guess we'll be able to transfer our memory into a hard disk in the future. Probably it might require some big, large hard disks, gigantic hard disks, but it's possible that we are gonna transfer some of our mental things or memory to artificial intelligence venues or locations. So people who are specialized in neurological areas, mind/memory, they are going to be on demand as well. So it's still a budding area, flourishing area, but in my opinion, keep a close eye on this, guys. Keep a close eye on mind and memory areas. And then AI, VR, you know, virtual reality, AI, artificial intelligence, and big data. I remember TAing for a class called Big Data Visualization. Right now, many scientists are working on big data. And big data is everywhere, basically. And even, for example, this year, for example, I'm going to give you an example of a big data. It's probably the biggest social science data in the world, and it is census. Census information, you know, the Census Bureau, it's a, you know, federal government bureau that count how many people are there in the United States every 10 years. So every decade in 2000, 2010, of course, it dates all the way back to 1700s, but in 2010, I was here in the United States in 2010, and now into 2020, census is collecting a very big data, and it's the data of more than 300 million people, close to 330 million people in the United States. And census have, they have, for example, average income at a particular zip code, average educational attainment, median household income, and many countless data they have for every city, every town, every zip code, every village, and maybe every person. So big data is really big. But maybe more importantly, artificial intelligence combined with big data, it will, I think, present countless opportunities in the future. And using some statistical methods, and some not only statistical methods but other software, not exactly related to, you know, sheer or pure statistics. There's some software which is completely about big data, so they are able to interpret big data. You put, for example, 20,000 newspaper articles, and then they give you, they make some content analysis, and they say, hey, these are the most popular words, phrases in this time frame about this incident, about such and such person, about this racial group, this socioeconomic status group. And big data gives you countless possibilities. So I think playing with big data is one of the things in the future that will be, it's already popular, but it's going to be more popular in the future. And artificial intelligence, I don't think I need to talk about the importance of artificial intelligence or virtual reality. You are, as a generation, guys, you are born into these things. We accepted these things when we were like teenagers or young adults, but you are lucky, you are born into these things, and I think you will be much more well-versed about these things. And if you are curious about these type of things, VR, AI, there's again countless possibilities in the future, guys. Excuse me. Finally, as usual, medicine and medical professions, or you can also put some, legal areas like being a lawyer and all these things. But more importantly, guys, these places, these areas, medicine and medical professions, medicine is changing a lot. Medical knowledge is changing a lot. And just these days, for example, doctors and other medical professionalists, or maybe big drug companies, they're trying to find a cure for coronavirus. And coronavirus, for example, is changing a lot of different patterns in our life. And it's also changing many different things in chemistry, in biology, as well as in medicine. So I want to be a doctor. I'm not going to be a doctor like from the 1980s or 1990s, etc. You are going to be the doctor of the future, and the problems that future brings will be very different. So as a result, you should be pretty much ready to be a future doctor of 2020s, 30s, and 40s. And it requires a lot of mental adaptability and flexibility, guys. Believe me. I think medicine could be one of the top 3 areas that require its professionals to learn or update their knowledge each and every day. So being a medical professional, okay, is good, but keep in mind that it requires a lot of mental flexibility and adaptability. All right? And finally, here's my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I have mostly Turkish videos about English language, American culture, and some of the soft skills that I briefly mentioned. But I have also some English videos, for example, about certain software, how you can use them. Citation software, Zotero, I have a video about it. But I will also, hopefully I will make more English videos in the future. I opened my channel with Turkish videos because there were a lot of people who were in the United States and who recently came, and I tried to help them by teaching some of the bolts and nuts of the trade, so to say, how to survive in American society and culture, to learn more about American culture. But please encourage your parents and your friends to subscribe, because I'll bring more diversified content in the future. All right, guys. Any questions? I think 35 minutes is a good time to wrap it up. And if you have any questions, I am right now ready to take your questions. I will also check the live stream if there is any comment, but also a friend of mine will also share some of the questions with me. So I am checking if there's any questions. Feel free to ask any questions. It doesn't have to be related to this specific topic that I mentioned, but you can also ask some other questions about your future career or professional career. So, any questions, guys? I think there are around like 33 people currently watching this live stream. Is everything crystal clear? I don't think everything should be crystal clear. Yes, here's a question. What are jobs you think will expire or become useless with all of the innovations and AI? It's very hard to predict what kind of jobs will expire or will not be used again or will be obsolete, because it's very hard to predict the future. But keep in mind that one of the things that will expire is in the future we are going to have more machine dependent jobs. For example, at this moment, around 65 to 70% of the jobs are done by human beings, and 30 to 35% of the jobs are done by robots or machines. For example, in 10 years, they predict that the machines or robots will take over, not completely, but their share in the pie chart will be around 40 to 45%. So they're getting closer to 40-45%. That said, there are some things that machines can never do. Being creative or having emotional intelligence, for example, is one of them. That machines don't have emotional intelligence, and as a result, you can be one step ahead about the jobs that you can show your emotional intelligence or creativity. Even though machines, there is some, neural learning they call. For example, you must have heard about the computer program AlphaZero. AlphaZero was I think it has been produced by Google. AlphaZero was an important and a very interesting program because they tried to use it with chess first. They tell AlphaZero how to play chess, and they didn't upload any games, any previous games. They didn't put any previous games in its memory. And AlphaZero started playing with each other, with itself, not each other, but with itself. And like they give AlphaZero like a week or something like that. And in 7 days, its chess level was as good as other computer programs who play the best of the chess in the world. So, and later on, in a kind of match, AlphaZero was able to beat the best chess playing computer. Its name is, the software is called Stockfish. AlphaZero was able to beat Stockfish, the best chess playing. And after, in only 1 week, AlphaZero was able to learn chess in the best way. But again, it's not exactly related to creativity, because you give the previous commands. You teach him or teach her. I don't know what is AlphaZero. I think it was her, because its name was Leela or something like that, or Leila, something like that. So that computer program still had to learn how to play chess. And but still, it's better than many other interesting software programs. And many software programs can only use whatever you upload or whatever you give as a command. So they lack creativity, they lack emotional intelligence. So maybe you might want to make sure you are directing yourself to these areas, especially in this part of the profession. Okay, there's another question. I want to continue my graduate degree in education. Could you advise what field is better to study? In education, I think you can, of course, be educational leadership is one group, for example. I'm not an expert on educational field, but educational leadership or operations, educational operations, or just education itself, becoming a high school teacher or middle school teacher. These are some of the things. But I think what you can do is educational technologies could be a good idea. Educational technologies is usually the part that you might want to integrate some of the technological advancement or innovations into education. For example, I think face-to-face learning is still important, and especially if there's a lab class like chemistry lab, biology lab, we still need face-to-face on-campus learning. But I think with the advent, or not the advent, but with the arrival of coronavirus, I think in the future, some of the universities and colleges, they're going to be offering more online education classes in the future. I can't say it's going to be 90% online, 80% online. I think it's still too early to call because I have been doing some online teaching, and online teaching with my own university doesn't exactly replace the beauty of face-to-face teaching. And because in face-to-face teaching, you can see the gestures of your students. You can easily understand or notice that student is able to understand what that particular, for example, if she doesn't understand my definition of a certain concept, you can easily realize or notice through her face or her gestures or mimics. But in Zoom, you can't do that easily. It's, for example, with my current class, I can't see my students' face because they don't want to be seen. They even turn off their volumes, computer sound. So I'm the one, but of course, when I ask a question, I can hear their sounds, but maybe in the future, there will be more face-to-face interaction. Maybe you can put more lecture activities that are outside lecturing. For example, one-on-one discussion, role-playing, case study, or all these things. Maybe you are going to do some virtual cyber visit to a historical site in Italy, in France, for example. And how are you going to integrate all these educational innovations to the learning process itself could be very important. My recommendation to you is combine education with AI, virtual reality, and all these things. And I think you will find a lot of good, beautiful things, very interesting combinations, I guess. Any other questions, guys? Comments? I hope this answers your question. Okay, another question. I would like to start an import-export business. What are some steps and some risks I need to be taking? Again, I am not a business person, or I'm not a merchant. Even though I have some online business experience, many people sell certain things on Amazon or eBay. I did it several years ago. Here's the thing, guys. If you start with small steps, if you are going to do some online business, for example, or just not online, but real hard business, whatever you call it, import, export, make sure that you offer something that is needed in the society. Make sure you don't have big competitors, because most of the time big competitors can easily destroy you, because you can't sell as cheap as those big competitors. So, big fish usually swallow the small fish, all right? Smaller fish. So make sure you find a niche, a brand new area. And again, this requires some creativity and innovation. I recommend you to take a look at for example, some new innovative ideas. You know, people make some fundraising, they engage in some fundraising, you know, and they say, hey, here's my future project, and I am planning to invent this, and here it is. Please help me fund my project. If you have some inventions, innovations, feel free. Or another opinion for you. Go to Amazon.com, all right, find the product, and find a popular product, read the reviews of that product, and find out what people most complain about that product, and improve that product by making some modifications on that product. By, for example, if people are saying that, hey, I want to buy this mug, but this part, the holding part, is breaking very quickly, so maybe you should make a new mug with a better holding part, more durable part, sturdy part. So think about improving on the products that are already on the market, or try to find some other options that that is not, maybe there's a product, a very popular product in France, but it is not popular in the United States. So first you need to make a feasibility research. Let me give you an interesting example about feasibility research. You know FedEx, right? FedEx is one of the top 2 private companies along with UPS. There are some other shipping companies, but UPS and FedEx are the biggest ones in terms of private companies. Of course, the government has used USPS or the post office as well. But FedEx is a very interesting success story, because the founder of FedEx was doing his PhD at Yale University. And he came up with the idea of overnight shipping, or 1 day or 2 day shipping, or 2 day, 1 day delivery. And he presented this to his professor as his PhD dissertation project. And his professor gave him only C, not A, not B, but only C. And he was surprised. And the professor said, in order to get better than C, your project must be feasible. And professor thought that that project was not feasible. Feasible means, you know, realistically possible. But he went on to found FedEx. And according to an urban legend, maybe this is just a myth, but according to that urban legend, the person who founded FedEx, established FedEx, he put this sign at the entrance of his office or his company or factory. He said, those who know or who dare themselves establish FedEx or found FedEx, those who don't become a professor at Yale. So he basically took a shot of his professor at Yale. But those people, innovative people like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, or the founder of SpaceX program and the Tesla, I forgot his name, I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, so these innovators always came up with new ideas. So maybe you might find something new. If you always follow the previous patterns, you can still make good money with some risks. But if you are the pioneer, if you are the trailblazer, and you are blazing the trail on the path for others who will follow you, there's a higher chances that you will be more successful. Try to be original. Another question is, do you think the sports world will lose popularity? I don't think so. Of course, the thing is, I assume that we are going to go back to normal. Once this coronavirus days are over, we are going to go back to normal. Why do I think that sports will not lose its popularity? Because sports, for example, especially in the United States, is part of the entertainment. And since it is part of the entertainment business, along with movie industry, music industry, and art industry, sports is also another part of entertainment industry. And a lot of actors are making very serious investment on sports. It's not only about athletes or players. Think about, for example, basketball, because I'm an NBA junkie. And as you can see, guys, I have Brooklyn Nets. I'm not a fan of Brooklyn Nets because I have different NBA T-shirts and sweatshirts. But let's talk about the NBA. There are 30 teams in NBA, and all these teams are franchises. They are run like companies. Their ultimate purpose is to make money, okay? And then these franchises are making money out of the attendance, right? When fans come to their games, they make money out of the attendance. And then there's another actor, the media, like ESPN, for example, or TNT, who broadcast these games. They also want to make sure they broadcast these games and they make a lot of money out of these sports games. And then there's another actor, business world. A lot of the business world, like companies like alcoholic beverages, banks, drug companies, chips, for example, Doritos chips type of, and all these different businesses, they give advertisement. They make advertisement during the sports games. So they are also tied to this entertainment industry. Keep in mind that, for example, why do you think soccer is not popular in the United States? Do you have any answer, guys, for this? Soccer is very popular almost all around the world, except for a couple of countries like maybe India, Australia. But almost all around the world, soccer is very popular. But in the United States, soccer is only number 4 or number 5. Why? Because soccer is 90 minutes. And there's a halftime, and it's 45 minutes game, 45-minute game without any stoppage. It goes without stopping. So it is not good for those companies who want to advertise their products, because people are not going to watch any advertisement or commercial for 45 minutes. Whereas in other popular sports, in basketball, football, I mean American football, basketball or baseball, the game stops a lot. There's a lot of timeouts in basketball. There's a lot of between innings and everything. There's a lot of stoppage time in baseball, in every swing almost. And then there's almost after every game, every play in American football, there's the game stops. Basically, the game stops so many times. Eventually, those who advertise their products, it's a hidden treasure. For example, if you watch a game, if you watch Super Bowl, for example, I've been watching Super Bowl for the last 10 years or so. And a lot of people, for example, many women watch Super Bowl. Half of the women watch Super Bowl just because of its commercials. Because Super Bowl commercials are very famous, very expensive commercials. So people watch these commercials. How about individual sports such as tennis, because it's not really run like a team sport? A good follow-up question. Individual sports tennis, let me give you another example. Golf. Tiger Woods was the most famous, not the most famous, but Tiger Woods, before he fell from grace in 2007, 2008, up until 2007, 2008, Tiger Woods was the wealthiest or the athlete who made the most money annually every year. Tiger Woods was the real deal until he fell from grace because of his personal issues. So individual stories, success stories, still make a lot of sense, and people watch golf a lot. Of course, again, it's not maybe as popular as soccer, basketball, but golf has a decent audience. Horse racing is a decent audience. It doesn't happen every day, but Kentucky Derby, for example, every year it draws a lot of audience. And also there are 4 big tournaments in golf. Also in tennis in the world, there are big tournaments, 4 big tournaments. They are pretty much popular. And one of the biggest tennis tournaments, along with Wimbledon, the French Open, Roland Garros, and Australian Open, and then we have American Open, they are pretty much popular. Let me give you another example. Cycling. Again, until Lance Armstrong fell from grace because it was revealed that he was cheating. Basically, he was doing doping. He was using steroids. He won French Tour de France for 7 times in a row. And you know, he's from Austin, Texas, and he was a larger-than-life character. So cycling has its own popular characters, and Lance Armstrong was very popular. Swimming, Michael Phelps was pretty much popular. He has the most decorated Olympic athletes with the most medals. Or NASCAR racing. We have in Europe, we have F1, Formula One racing, but in the United States, we have NASCAR. And every NASCAR game is watched in the stadium, in their own big racetrack. It's watched like 200 to 300,000 people at the same time. So again, even some individual sports like racing, cycling, swimming, tennis, I think they will still continue their popularity. There might be some loss in their popularity, but I think they're going to continue. All right. I think we almost made the 1 hour mark. Are there any other questions? Any other comments? By the way, these were very good questions, guys. Thank you so much. I really liked your questions. And if you like this meeting, I think we can meet again. I think they scheduled another meeting for next week, if I'm not mistaken. So, but after next week, we don't know if we are going to continue. It depends on the demand. And if you have any topics that you want me to cover, please feel free to share on the comment section, or if you know the organizers, you can also email them. And if you don't have any more comments, I think we can finish here. And thank you so much for joining. And it was a pleasure to talk to you guys, and hope to see you again next week. Take care and be safe and healthy. Bye.